No.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name is Casey Tibbetts. I'm really excited to share my TED Talk with you today. What I'd like to talk about today is connecting to leadership with a small L. I don't know if you guys have heard that phrase before, leadership with a small L. But there's a common idea that leadership is about power, titles, or commanding presence. And so President Kimberly B. Clark, in a talk called Leadership with a Small L, he taught that the greatest leaders aren't the ones in charge. They're the ones who lead by example through quiet acts of service, integrity, and kindness. And so what is leadership with a small L? Rhetorical. With that being said, President Clark described it in 3 essential principles. Leading by example, so living with integrity, showing others how to act by your own behavior, leading with vision, seeing potential in others, and then situations and lifting up others to that vision. And then lastly, leading with love, serving, uplifting, and caring for others in everyday ways. And so kind of going through the power of consistent leadership, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about a Study Upward course. It's a talk given by Henry B. Eyring, and he said that small, consistent efforts rather than one-time grand gestures define true leaders. And so kind of going into what defines a leader, it's leading by example, leading through consistency, leading through service, and then leading without recognition. That last point there is very important, as you can probably reflect in your own life, leaders around you, that they're not asking for any praise or anything like that. And so with that being said, the most humble people end up being the most wise leaders, from what you see. And the people that aren't asking for anything are usually the ones that can serve and lead others very well. And so kind of going through my own experience in someone that would be a true leader, in my opinion, I had a class and we were discussing a few problem questions. One being, why are you here at BYU Idaho? Was it for like a crazy reason? And I shared a story with a partner how I applied to BYU and BYU Idaho, and I didn't get into BYU, and I cried. It was a very sad experience for me. I really wanted to go to BYU, and I didn't feel like BYU Idaho was a great fit for me. And so coming here my first week, of course, my perception changed. I fell in love with the school. I realized it was like any other campus. And my partner, she shared that she applied to both BYU and BYU-I, and she actually didn't get into BYU either. But then her perception on it was that Heavenly Father needed her at BYU Idaho, not Provo. And so her reaction, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm here complaining for, because I feel like that perspective on everything, if I'm not getting what I want, that just means Heavenly Father isn't there or isn't needing me in that position at that time. And I loved that, and it helped me to reflect on any problem that I'm facing in my life and just acting towards it, like, this is not where Heavenly Father needs me to be. And so from then on out, I really felt like I needed to shift my mindset and moving forward and to to tackle problems along the way and have that mindset that this is where I need to be, and then I'm going to make an impact on people. I ended up meeting my husband, coming to BYU Idaho, and so there's a lot of great experiences and miracles that came out of that. And so not getting into BYU Provo years ago really impacted my life more than I can ever say. And so kind of going through Kim B. Clark's example, he talks about that leadership is like Christ-like leadership. It's small daily acts of service. And it leads into what we call this ripple effect of leadership. So think about a time when someone's small act of leadership influenced you. Maybe it was a teacher, a friend, a coworker. Their example likely inspired you to act differently. And I have a coworker where he didn't really demand respect, but it was given to him just by his presence and how he treated others around him. And when I noticed that people were following him because he was leading this way, I started to do that, and I felt like people were following me differently. And so it's this ripple effect on how you're treating others, how they're reciprocating that, and how this can affect you as a leader moving forward in your life. And President Clark's example is that leadership with a small L happens when we lift others up, whether or not we realize it. So true leaders love, they serve, and lead in ways that make others want to follow. And so kind of going into this next thing, you don't have to be, that was the wrong slide, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to lift up others. And I think that's oftentimes what we feel is that when someone is louder, that they probably command more respect. or demand it maybe. And that's not what we're trying to go for here, because leading with a small L is doing it in small, simple ways consistently over time, which is just being kind, loving others, and serving others. And you don't need to be allowed to do that. And the greatest example is Christ and how he leads. And well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that being said, a call to action. And so what does this mean for us? How we lead with a small L? I wanted to go back to these points here, which is being consistent in our efforts. And so how we're treating others every day, small ways to serve, small ways, and to lead by example without expecting recognition, because right when we expect praise, we're not being a leader. We're not supposed to be expecting things in return, only wanting to give, and then hopefully everything is reciprocated in the end. And then the next three examples were to lead by example, that vision and that love. And so all of these points connect really well with each other. And I wanted to leave with the final quote. It says, leadership isn't about titles, it's about influence. And the best leaders, they don't wait for a position, they lead through everyday actions. So my challenge to you is this: find one way to lead with a small L, because the world needs more steady, quiet leaders, and that can be you. And so reflecting back to Christ and his example of leadership, he's someone that didn't ask for praise. He's someone that helped and served others every day. He led a selfless life, and that's what ultimately turned people towards him. That's how he was able to gather Israel, by being his true kind self and wanting to help others and lift others up. He performed miracles, he healed the sick, he did so many things to help everyone and didn't expect anything in return. And he got harsh things in return for his selfless acts. And what I think is so important is that being a leader, we have to turn to Christ. And as long as we're turning to Christ, that's going to help us in turn be the best leaders that we can. Thanks.